The name of the show is Let's Talk. I'm your host. My name is Tank Nelson. Often the show starts with a little laughter because I'm talking to my engineer, Marty, before we go on. And, we're friendly and it's fun. And it's, you're talking about all this stuff. And so my head is full of, maybe joyous things. Or maybe I'm just hopefully I'm a joyous person. And that brings it up. Well, as Marty does his magic, and I get ready to do, I hope it's kind of magic anyway, talking over a microphone when it comes out to you is magic in my opinion. Talking to Marty, or talking about Marty in this case. The way all this thing got started, I've been on this show for coming up on 2 years, but the way it all got started is I came in and did a commercial, lots of years ago. And the commercial was all about voting. In fact, I have a note here, and the first 3 words across with commas are vote, vote, vote. And I thought, that's really important stuff. I talked about it on the show last week, but we're coming up on the vote. I mean, this is truly important stuff, but now how it got started. I wanted to do this thing about voting. I understood that you could be on the air you could pay for a commercial and they would play it X amount of times. I came in and talked to a lady named Nancy who ran the station at that time. A fellow named Bill runs it now. She's down in LA doing bigger stuff. I'm glad for Nancy. I'm glad for Bill too. He's got a nice job doing this radio station. But the vote thing was in there. So I sat down and I wrote out what is basically a commercial for voting. Now, I don't know much about timing or scripts or that type of thing. What I realized is that it had to run 60 seconds or so. So when I wrote it, as I was going to pause between what I'm saying, it's commas and all that type of thing, I made marks on the line. I mean, I drew a line for how long I thought it would be that you should say the next sentence because I had to time it out to the 60. So I had a clock on the wall and I worked at it. Finally, I got it down that I could, actually, I wasn't even reading it anymore because I had it down, I had memorized it. And so I could just say it, but I still watched the paper because I wanted the pauses to be correct. Came in, turned over my check. She said, here, meet Marty. He's an engineer. I'll go ahead back to this room where they have all the stuff. Not the studio I'm in now. It's the one about 3 down. But I went in there, and Marty talked, we laughed, we joked, and all that type of thing. And he says, you want to give it a shot? And I said, sure. So I did it standing up because I felt more comfortable standing up. Put the microphone out, and he went, basically counted it down, 1, 2, 3, and give me the sign, and we're on. So I read it. No, I didn't read it. Well, I had it in my hand. I didn't read it. I had it memorized. And I went down and think, vote, and why you vote. Wrapped it up, and I was getting ready to do the second one because and Marty turned around and says, geez, that's good. And why? Then I thought, what are you going to do? No reason to do another one. That one was right on, right timing, and I was listening and rhythm. So this guy who is now my engineer here, encouraged me to keep it the first one. I said, well, thank you very much. And we shook hands and I see you later. And I went out the door. Well, the first time I hear it I'm in Morro Bay. I get up early and I listen to this station. I'm driving along and here it is. And it starts off, I'm listening to my own voice on the radio. And I'm going, what? That was really, it's exciting. I don't know if it would be for you, but it certainly was for me. I'm driving along. Listen, I stopped. I stopped to listen to this 60-second commercial for voting. Well, as it comes to the end, there was enough time, and it was very clever on Marty's part. He left enough time, and he played Arlo Guthrie's the son. This land is your land. And, of course, that's what voting is all about. This land is your land. And if you don't vote, you're not protecting your land. And I think I said this last week. I said every vote counts. I don't care who you vote for. You could vote for Bob Barr and the Libertarians. You could vote for Ron Paul on the whatever. You're going to vote for Ron Paul, or you're going to I guess he's still running as a Republican, yeah. But or what's his name? Nader. You could vote for Nader, and then there's some lady that's running under another thing. You could vote for whoever you want. The big trick. I would like you to vote for Obama. I would like to see the Democrats get in. I would like to see the Democrats they already got the House. I'd like to see them take over the Senate with the 60 votes. It probably isn't going to happen, but they could get close. There could be a sweep. I hope that takes place. But that doesn't. But if Obama gets in and enough senators get in, and then we already have the Congress, we may be able to, the imperial we, all of us, the 300 million of us, we may be able to bring the culprits at least to trial. I don't know if we can get them convicted, and I don't know if we can get them sentenced. But if we had a big enough sweep where they couldn't be stopped, where the senators couldn't stop the movement, if you had enough senators, if you got 60, they can't stop you. You can just put through stuff, and you can bring everybody in. You can send out the subpoenas. You can send out the people. You can send out the investigators. You can send all those attorney generals and say, We want to know what happened. We want to know what happened and we want to know what happened in the Iraq War. We want to know what happened in the last 4 years of the presidency. We want to know, because it's never been investigated. A lot of crazy stuff went on. No investigations. I mean, we want to know why it wasn't regulated. We want to know then the economy. What happened to Wall Street? What happened to Main Street? What happened to the banks? What happened? Why did senators and Congress people vote the way they voted? And what was the influence on them? That type of thing. Where are the lobbyists? I want to bring old Jack Abramoff out of the jail again and put him on the stand and say, you're going to tell us more, or we're going to keep you in there longer, something along that line, because he knows a lot. I mean, he knows how many times he was in the White House. Nobody will tell us, but it could be found out. If somebody keeps the gate, that George Bush and Dick Cheney are going to claim executive privilege till their grave. I don't know if they can once they're out. We'll see. There's a lot of things that I don't know about and what the Supreme Court will do. And of course, if we get Obama in, we might appoint another liberal or reasonably liberal justice, so we can get some, instead of walking in lockstep, we can get some even votes. I don't know about any of this thing, but I'd like to see it possibly happening. Voting is that important. But on top of that, the big part of the voting thing, if you vote, you tell everybody, the good guys and the good girls, the bad guys and the bad girls, you tell them all, I'm paying attention. Now, our voting record in this country is really poor. I mean, in the national election and the local elections, it's really poor. People don't vote. I mean, I've said before in the station, on this program, that I believe it's because everybody has a first problem, and if your first problem is big enough, you don't pay attention to the rest of the problems. If you have a big financial problem, if you have a big drug problem, alcohol problem, family problem, work problem, whatever you have, if the problem's big enough, you don't care about anything else. You only care about that problem. It's the problem that drives you. It's the problem that keeps you. So you got to pay attention about where your problems are. But while you're doing that, pay attention to the vote. Pay attention. Yeah. Well, I'm going to give you something you should pay attention about. In the Tribune this week, there's an article about families are making less money. They give you that thing, the average American family, I think they quoted it $42,000 a year. Now, I hope that's true. I mean, $42,000 is not a lot of money after you pay taxes. I mean, especially, even Social Security takes 7.5%. That's a pretty good chunk. I mean, you got about $2,500 plucked out of there before you say hello on a year's time. And then there's local, there's state taxes and there's federal taxes and there's of course, there's certainly sales tax. So, out of that $42,000, besides being in debt and besides paying interest and all that type of thing, you paid a lot of money. So $42,000 isn't what it used to be. But it says families are making less. Now it wasn't even a big article. But if you look at it and think about, all of us have families of some type. I'm 75. My family, I have a wife. That's our family. We have 9 children between us and a whole slew of grandchildren and a whole slew of great-grandchildren. It's a pretty big family because it keeps expanding from these 2 points. We're concerned. We're concerned for them. Now, I don't know anybody in this group that's doing too badly as I speak, but who knows what's going to happen as this debacle continues. But there's a lot of people out there hurting. There's a lot of people out there that aren't going to have enough, and that's an absolute shame in a country that has so much. Now, capitalism does this naturally. If you have capitalism, you have a lot of people at the top making a lot of money. You're going to have a lot of people at the bottom that make hardly any money. In the past and currently, what we do is we write the people at the bottom through the people at the top, or the people at the top tax the people in the middle, and then they give a stipends to the people that are poor, called welfare. They say, here's some money, stay out of our way. Don't cause any trouble or we'll throw you in jail. That's the way it sits up. Now, the people at the top, of course, they're scooping it in, sweeping it in, grabbing it in, shoveling it in, however they would do it. And you can't stop them. I've been looking at it. I'll tell you how old I am. I've been looking at it a long time. The smart people, the greedy people, the connected people, the people that need to have big money are always going to do this. It's just as natural as the earth turning and the sun is there. It's going to happen. Now, you can't really begrudge them. If you were born into wealth, if you were born in, like George W. Bush, if you were born into wealth, the chances are you would want more wealth. And you would want to have wealth at the same level as your siblings have. You probably want wealth at the same level your parents had. Now, they got it from their grandfather, and they got it from their grandfather, so it's pretty hard to add it all up. So what you really want is so much wealth that nobody can suggest that you don't have a lot of wealth. And that's what folks do. Well, they do it in all kinds of ways. I mean, some people do it in business. Some people do it in government. Some people do it many ways. I was going to mention some negative ways, but I won't do that. But they're driven. I mean, for all the reasons they're driven. Some people start with nothing and they're driven. Bill Clinton started with nothing. He was driven, and he drove and he drove and he drove and he got to the very top. Now, while he was at the top, not only did he make a couple of mistakes. I'm not talking about in his personal life. I'm talking about he made a couple of mistakes like NAFTA and CAFTA and free trade. Those are a couple of mistakes that Bill Clinton made. We should revisit those, and I hope Obama will. We'll revisit it and say, wait a minute. Why should we take stuff in from out of the country where people make almost nothing and put it in these gigantic markets, and people buy it because it's cheap, and the money goes overseas? I mean, we did it. I mean, we've got to share the wealth, but man, our middle class is getting hammered because of the system, and part of that system is called free trade. Now, I'm not a guru. I'm not. What's the guy? Kevin Phillips just came out with this new book. I'm no Kevin Phillips. I'm no Paul Krugman. I'm no. I'm just a guy that worked for a living all my life. I was talking to a fellow, I think this morning, and I was telling him I started working when I was 18. I'm still working. Now, fortunately, from my previous work, I probably have enough money to live on. I mean, it's hard to say because I'm working, so I make more money, and you can't be sure if you could do without that money. If I looked at a budget, I'd say yes, I could do without it. But it's really fun to have, and I love working. So I'm still working now. As I said, 75, been 18. That's a lot of years to be working, and most of them were joyous. I mean, there's a long. If I ever write a memoir, one of the things that I'll love talking about is working, because it was really good stuff. But now back to these families that are making less money. These families. Several things. I mean, you talk about being hooked together. I mean, how life works. These families that are making less, things are going to happen. These are little things, but they're going to eat out less. I don't know how much they eat out now, but they're going to eat out less. Now, I do all the cooking at my house. I do buy all the groceries. I know how cheap it is to eat home as compared to eating out, and I always peg it at about 1/3. If you were going to spend $30 to eat out, you could eat at home for $10. And now it's probably less, but I'm rounding it out good. I'm even putting in a little time to do the dishes and everything, and figuring these things out. But you think about it as many people, if a family went out, they could easily, if you could go to Applebee's and spend $60, for say mother, father, 2 kids. $60 would be easy at Applebee's. At home, it would be $20. So as these things tighten, as these people as you have less discretionary money, Applebee's is going to take a hit. Even McDonald's is going to take a hit because a hamburger. Well, I don't know about you buy off the dollar menu, $1 hamburger. It's hard to duplicate at home. So maybe McDonald's isn't going to take such a big hit, or Arby's or whatever, or In-N-Out Burger. I mean, they have that. They have that $4 thing where you get fries and a drink and a hamburger, whatever, number 2 or whatever it's called. It would be hard to duplicate that at home for $4. You could. I mean, if you were really clever and you froze buns and you froze meat, so you could do it again, because that's also part of the problem is leftovers. But you could do it. But generally speaking, 3-to-1. So if you're going to tighten up, getting 2/3 of the cost back because you don't go out, it's a pretty good hit. Now think about movies. Now, the movie population is slightly off, but young people just keep it crowded. Between 14 and 22, those are the people that go to the movies. Here in San Luis, if it wasn't for the campus, I don't know how many movie theaters would be gone, because people over 50 don't go to the movies. I mean, they go, but I mean, they don't go in legions. I mean, I've sat in the Palm to see a good movie in the late evening, early evening, and there might be 50 people. And I would say that half of them are over 50, but that's the Palm. If you go downtown, that changes. If you go to the Edwards, that changes, depending on what's playing, of course. But so it's a young person's game. But if you have a husband and wife and the same 2 kids that went to Applebee's, and you're thinking about going to the movies, now you're talking about a $20 bill. I mean, minimum. I mean, a minimum 20, not counting popcorn, which is outrageous at movies, not counting a Coke, which is outrageous at movies, except at the Palm, they're not so outrageous. But generally, they are. You think $20? I mean, that's a minimum. It'd probably be more than that. I'm sure it's going to be more than that with it. Yeah, probably more. Say $25. You got to take 25 cash dollars, which probably cost you $40 with taxes involved. To get the 25, you had to make 40. Now, let's say you worked, you could make, not many people do this anymore, but let's say you made $20 an hour. You work 2 hours to go to a 2-hour movie. And then you think, whoa, wait a minute. I can go to Netflix and get it for $1.50. I can go to, I don't like to go to Blockbuster because that's, well, I mean, not that I don't like to. It's a little hassle. You got to drive down, drive back, all that. They got all kind of stuff. But video places are a little bit of a hassle. But a Netflix, you could actually come down to where you could watch the best movies ever made. Not current movies, but the best movies ever made, $1.50. You could do the thing with like Charter or Dish or those places where they have those special packages where you get movies that are almost new. It costs you, a couple of bucks. I says, if you get into a tight position financially, which is happening now, a couple of bucks makes a lot of difference. Now you think, well, wait a minute. You mean yeah. And then what about trips where you took the 2 kids and you were in the San Luis Obispo area, but I live in Morro Bay. Let's say you're in Morro Bay and you have 2 adults and 2 children, and you decide to go over and see Sequoia. That's about a 3.5-hour drive. Terry and I do it not frequently, but we probably do it once a year. 3.5-hour drive. Well, the 3.5-hour drive today, because of the price of gas, of course, the price of gas is coming down, thank goodness. But even at the price of gas that it is now, that's about an $80 gas round trip. It also takes a minimum of 10, 12 hours because you've got to stop, you got to look, that means you're going to eat a couple times. That means you eat out again. I mean, then you start thinking, whoa, let's say you took a picnic lunch, right? Actually, if you could even say you took a big picnic lunch. You got a $20 bill for the 2 big picnic lunches, and you got another $80 and you think, wow, that's a lot of money. Well, that's what's coming. Terry and I are going to Ripplewood in mid-November. Ripplewood is that resort up the coast in Big Sur. They have cabins that have been there since 1933, right on the river. We just love this place. I mean, they got little kitchens. I do all the cooking. We bring stuff. Got little kitchens. They've got nice bedrooms. They've got a fireplace, and the river's right outside your door. Lovely place. Lovely, lovely place. Well, it also has a lovely, lovely price tag. Now, they do give a discount for people that live in this, zone. They have a discount. Now, the discount isn't gigantic, but it's enough to be interesting because you save X amount of dollars. But we're going in November. Now, it's not so much gas there because it's only, I would think it's about, I'm going to guess around 80 miles. So you use about $10, $12 of gas, $25 round trip. But we mostly stay there. Now, we might drive up to Carmel for breakfast one morning. You calculate all this stuff. We think this costs this amount of money. Well, if your money is being shrunk, I mean, if you're in a position where, now, I don't think that our money, we don't have investments, we don't have stocks or bonds or anything like that. So I don't know that our money is going to get shrunk. Although things are going to eventually cost more because everything's going up. And so you look at it and think, well, should I do this? Should I do that? Well, we're going to go anyway. But, as time moves forward, somewhere along the line, everybody's going to have to think about, except those folks at the top with the millions, they're going to have to think what you're going to do with your money. And this is all caused because we, the big imperial we, the whole group, the 300 million of us, we didn't pay attention. Now, they didn't pay attention in Europe either, and they didn't pay attention in Japan or China or where all the stock markets are crashing. They didn't pay attention either. I mean, they were all bamboozled like we were. And hopefully that'll all be sorted out sometime. We'll find out how we got bamboozled. But for now, we just know we got bamboozled. Well, jumping into the bamboozling. There was an article in the paper recently about Republicans as socialists. Now, it's hard to imagine Republicans as socialists. They want to deregulate, and they want free trade, and they want all these things. The markets will take care of themselves, and they'll find that that all the things they were telling us for the last couple of years in big letters, big headlines, letters, big speeches, big everything. And of course, all the time they're telling us, people are out there, skewing the program so they can make a lot of money and you get screwed. They skew, you get screwed. That's the way it happened. But they're talking about Republican socialists because of, I was going to say 750 billion, but actually it's about 850 now, that they're going to pump into the banks. Now, supposedly they're buying stock in the banks, and they're going to get the money back because the stock will rise. They lie and cheat and steal like nobody's business. But that's what they're saying. Well, that would make the Republicans socialists, because in a socialist country, the banks and the government are aligned. And so these these non-regulator Republicans that are saying that's the way to do it, and that's what caused all this problem. Well, not exactly what caused, but it certainly caused a lot of this problem. And of course, the big problem is we didn't pay attention. We didn't elect the right people. We didn't demand enough safety. We didn't demand a lot of stuff, and they rigged the game while we were paying it. While we were going out to have dinner when we could. They rigged the game, and the game stays rigged. And I says, you got to. I mean, it's an interesting business. Pay attention. Pay attention to what's going on in our country. Pay attention to what's going on in your life. Pay attention to what's going on around you. Pay attention to what people are doing, good and bad, because everything, and I'm saying everything. I mean, truly, your life. Your children's life, your grandchildren's life, your great-grandchildren's life depend. I don't mean necessarily the elimination of life, but the quality of life depends on what happens. Depends on who's in office. It depends on what direction. I mean, you might elect a president. We are going to elect a new president in a few days. You might elect a president that is just going to hammer you. That this person is aligned with the wrong people, and they take the country in the wrong direction for the good of the people that are doing this, and you really get blasted. That could happen, and it doesn't. You can't be sure what's going to happen until you see. I mean, you have to elect somebody. Somebody has to go in, raise their hand, and say, "Yes, I do, I will," and all that. And somebody says, "Now you're the president. Appoint your cabinet, appoint your people, and let's get on the road and let's make this happen." You have what they call the honeymoon time, or whatever they call it for the first part. They're going to tell you that, but who's ever elected has to have you in mind, because if they don't, you're really going to get hammered. While we still have a few minutes. Socialism. The problem. Under a socialistic concept, people do less because they're going to get paid the same. I mean, the idea that a trolley conductor and a doctor make the same amount of money is just plain nuts. I mean, it's just plain nuts. But under true socialism, that would be the case. And you think, well, that's not going to work. I mean, because obviously the doctor isn't going to work 15 hours a day or 20 hours a day and live under the stress that a doctor lives under when the guy running the trolley goes along, ringing the bell and smiling and laughing and going home making love to his wife, at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. The doctor is not going to say, whoa, this is a good deal. No, not at all. The trolley guy might think so, but the doctor's not going to think so. Then there's welfare and the problem. And of course, I talked about it earlier, but the welfare and the problem. I think it was this show. Anyway, welfare. We pay people to stay out of our way. I've never been on welfare. You've probably never been on welfare, but there's a lot of folks on welfare. It's really taking money from the middle class because the rich don't pay for it. I mean, well, they pay for it in a way, but the big money comes from the middle class, and we pay these people X amount of dollars to stay home, to watch television, whatever welfare people are going to do. I mean, it's awful because we're really hurting them. I mean, we're not helping them; we're hurting them. We got to figure out a way to make it better. I don't know how that way is, and if you'd like to talk about it, you give me a call and we'll talk about it. The other thing is capitalism. Well, we know we live in capitalism. We are capitalists. I'm a capitalist. You're a capitalist. I mean, we use our money to make money. That's a capitalist. I'm not sure where that's going either. I mean, we saw capitalism crash here the last couple of weeks. How it recovers will be another story. But pay attention. See what capitalism does. See how it works out for you. See how it works for me. I mean, there is stuff out there. There is stuff. You're going to vote soon. So remember, when you think about John McCain, I'm an Obama guy, and I'd like to see the Democrats wrap it up. When you think about McCain, think about the Keating Five. Think about the 3 airplanes he crashed and got away with it because his father was an admiral. And think about his health. Think about the fact that he's fully disabled from the Navy and gets $58,000 a year tax-free as a liability pension. I mean, you got to think about these things. You got to vote. You got to think. You got to care. I'll see you next week. Keep smiling.